This video is sponsored by Grammarly. Back when I was a teacher, sometimes I would actually go into the school on the weekends just to catch up on paperwork, busy work, grading and whatnot. And as I would be cleaning up, I would maybe be listening to a Brian Tracy audiobook. Honestly, it was just like a form of comfort at the time because I was so broke. Listening to self-help tapes just kind of got me through the day on the weekends. But one idea from Brian Tracy really stuck out to me. It felt really grandiose, maybe full of hot air at the time. But it was this idea of improving by 0.1% every day. He argued that if you improved by 0.1% every single day, then 10 years later, you would make 10 times as much money. And at the time, I was really obsessed with money. So the idea of making 10 times what I was making as a teacher seemed insane. And some of the stuff that he recommended, it was really simple. Like even a relatively lazy person could do these things. There were things like write out your goals twice a day or listen to audio programming during your downtime. I think honestly, a lot of what he was saying was just to sell more of his books. I used to be a big fan of Brian Tracy, but I have to admit, he has sort of just rewritten the same book like 20 times. I don't think he said anything new in like such a long time. But this was maybe one of the bigger ideas from Brian Tracy that I was just curious about because it was the only thing that didn't feel really overwhelming. If I could just become a little bit better today, I mean, I can write out my goals twice a day, sure. I'll do that. If that's gonna make me 10 times as much money, even just a little bit more money would have made a big difference at the time. So I started doing those things. Now it's been 6 years since those days, on the weekends at the school, and I legitimately make over 10 times what I made as a teacher. Very comfortably, actually. That's like a slow month for us. If I would have known that at the time, that I would actually end up making 10 times as much, it would have been so shocking to me, it would have blown my mind. Whereas now, it actually feels very ordinary. And even though this sounds crazy, just imagine you take your current income and you just 10x'd it. That would be ridiculous, right? Even now, if I think about it, it seems insane. But I'm pretty sure this concept is actually one of those that genuinely works. You probably could 10x your income continuously, at least for a good while, just by getting better every day. You know what, maybe there's a diminishing returns on income, but like with a lot of aspects of your life, you could probably 10x your life, at least what it looks like in the world, just by getting better every day. Like that compounding effect of 1% gains, it's actually one of the legitimately true things. Since the time of Brian Tracy, when he was at his peak, a lot of people have really pushed the idea of marginal improvement, marginal gains. But Thomas and I, when we sat down for our first podcast episode, we legitimately pondered this. Like, how can you actually tactically kind of ensure you're improving by 1% a day? Because if you can actually improve 1% every day and know that that's happening, all you have to do is just do the stuff and then live long enough to see the results. Like if you just do the stuff and make sure you don't die, you just live long enough to see all the work you did pay off, you could pretty much ensure success. So we came up with a list that actually worked for us, and that's what I want to share in this video. 5 ways to make yourself 1% better every day. The first thing that we came up with was getting to the gym. It seems really trite, something a lot of people would say, but as a young person or an entrepreneur, oftentimes you struggle with what to focus on, especially as an entrepreneur, but even as like a student, you're wondering, what should I focus on? Like, what is the best use of my time? It's sometimes hard to know what the best use of your time is. But one thing that's like a really low-hanging fruit in terms of decision making and something that's probably going to be a great use of your time is just getting to the gym. You are pretty much never going to regret going to the gym. It's always going to give you an ROI, and especially if you dedicate yourself to a program. And I think this is actually the key to the next level of this, where you could probably grow by more than 1% a day. Have a reason for every workout. It should be a part of a bigger picture. Back in the day, I would, work out all the time, but my goal was just to not be fat or to not be a piece of shit. Like, oh, I'll just go to the gym because people who are not losers will do this. But now I'm much more specific. I focus on performance-based objectives. I wanna hit certain strength numbers. I wanna decrease my mile time by a certain amount. I wanna improve my technique in boxing. I've now been boxing for like 6 months and my technique is still shit, but 1%. If you make your goals around performance, the results are much more in your control, and you end up improving your physique and more importantly, your mindset in a much more definite manner. Something just happens when you know you can lift 5 pounds more this week than you could last week. Honestly, it just saves the day. You can't have a bad day when you hit a PR. Number 2 for me is to meditate. I almost can't quite explain why meditation is so powerful. Of course, there's all the research-backed evidence on why meditation is good for you, why it's gonna make you better. Things like improving your focus, your willpower, reducing your stress levels. But for me, meditation just makes me luckier. It's almost as if life is like this open world RPG, right? And you've got a big open map. You can do whatever you want in life. So if you have an axe, you can go find the nearest tree and cut it down. Like you click on the tree, you're gonna cut the tree, you're gonna get some logs. And you can do things. You can use those logs to build a fire and cook some food and eat it. But even if you did all of those actions, nothing really moved forward. But in certain moments in that open world RPG, you might walk onto a certain part of the map, or you might interact with a certain character, or maybe you just walked into the tall grass, right? And that triggers a cutscene. Something starts, some part of the quest or the storyline progresses. And suddenly the game goes from chopping logs to just becoming like, oh, what? What? The story is unfolding? What? It's like you ran into something. What did I do here? Something's starting out. Meditation makes it more likely that you're gonna take one of those actions that's gonna trigger the next cutscene. I know this sounds a little spiritual, but you know, screw it. It just is true for me. Maybe it's just that we all have multiple intelligences. You know, of course, our conscious mind, our logic-driven approach to life. But there's also the subconscious mind. And is there perhaps an infinite intelligence, a superconscious mind that we could tap into, where you just get a flash of insight or a hunch? They say like Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison were two different kinds of inventors. Thomas Edison just like ran through every single possibility. You know, when he was trying to make his version of the light bulb, he would just like test every possible filament. And because he just ran through like 10,000 different things, he was like a crank inventor. He eventually landed on the right one. Whereas Nikola Tesla, maybe the truer genius of the two, had more instinct and insight, maybe tapped into something that Edison wasn't. I mean, it may sound a little silly, but meditation has that tendency to awaken those instincts. And that is very powerful. You trigger the next cutscene, you will surge forward. The third idea is something that Thomas brought up in our conversation, because I just asked him, like, what has moved the needle the most for you?
Yeah, I would say like daily work at some skill.
Yeah, and that's to work for 3 to 4 hours deeply on something, on a skill ideally, that can make you more money. Deep work. Cal Newport made that term really famous. It's actually incredibly rare. Take it from me as someone who worked in corporate America for 3+ years. Everything in the modern world was engineered so that you don't do deep work. Emails, Slack messages, Teams messages, meetings where everyone's getting together to be aligned on something. You have like 8 people on a call, none of whom need to be on there. And it could have just been like a 1 bullet point email that everyone got. It's incredibly rare to find people who do deep work. But if you can get yourself to do it for just a few hours each day, do what it takes, you know, set a timer and just tell yourself you're just gonna zone in. You are honestly going to be more productive each day than like 90% of society, just because it's very powerful to do deep work. 3 hours on any given day also is just not that hard. It's probably what I average, 3 hours of truly deep work. The rest of the time I'm just doing other stuff. And if you did this with relentless consistency, you become great at something that can make you a lot of money. This video is sponsored by Grammarly. Now, I've actually been using Grammarly for coming up on a year. I use it every day, and it's helped me script, send emails, plan more effectively. Grammarly is an all-in-one writing tool. More than simply a spelling and grammar checker, it allows you to clearly and effectively communicate your ideas across all platforms. Their free version has basic spelling and grammar suggestions, but Grammarly Premium, which I use in my everyday life, helps far more when it comes to writing important emails, pre-production. I mean, so much. If anything in my life has to do with online communication, I am using Grammarly. The Grammarly desktop app is free to download and easy to integrate into your daily life. It works where you work, inside Gmail, Microsoft Word, across all platforms, to save you time on all your writing. Sometimes when I'm writing emails, I have to be assertive, but I don't know how to strike that balance between being assertive and like kind. But with Grammarly's premium tone transformations, I can now assert what I want in an email without coming across as too aggressive. Another thing I tend to do in emails is write too many unnecessary words, making my sentences hard to understand. But with Grammarly Premium's Clarity full sentence rewrites, I can effectively communicate my ideas concisely. Also, Grammarly's tone detector ensures that you say what you mean in the correct tone so that you're never misunderstood. Get through those emails quicker and your work better by keeping it concise, confident, and in the right tone with Grammarly. Go to grammarly.com/Captain Sinbad to sign up for a free account and get 20% off of Grammarly Premium to help you work more efficiently. The fourth idea is to read, and this is something a lot of people will say, but the point I want to add on to this is that you shouldn't just be reading generic self-help advice. Read something specific. Just because you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
Just start with what interests you. And it doesn't just have to be reading, it can be podcast episodes. Hopefully this, for someone out there, is going to trigger a level of action. Like, let me try this today. Let me wake up and go for a run tomorrow. And
just trying to get valuable actionable information into your life. Doesn't even have to be like your natural self-help book.
In fact, sometimes self-help books are the least important thing you should be reading.
Yes.
Sometimes they're just so stupid. It's like, shut up.
The thing is, a lot of self-help books are so focused on tactics. And it's like, yeah, I can kind of max out my tactics and my efficiency.
Yeah.
But if it's not...
What's the meat of it, though?
Yeah, I can max out my tactics once I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. Like, as a high schooler, I would read a lot of generic self-help books. They just made me feel good. Things like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which in retrospect did nothing for me. I don't remember any benefit coming out of reading that book other than me being like, oh yeah, I should try to get everyone to win and I should be proactive. It doesn't actually lead to anything because it's not focused. The problem with a lot of self-help books is that they're for everybody and they're not tailor fit to you. You have to read for yourself. You almost should put your reading on its own program. There should be a program around the content you're consuming, the books you're reading, the podcasts you're listening to. There should be some purpose to them. This isn't to say that you can't read for entertainment. I also have really gotten back into fiction and I think it's been really great. But I started making progress and getting more out of books when I read for the scenario I was in. For instance, when I was a low-income employee and I just wanted to get my salary up, reading books about business and entrepreneurship at the time, it just wasn't relevant. So I would read books like The Millionaire Fastlane or something like that, and I didn't know what to do with that knowledge. Even though it's all great knowledge, I didn't have any money to invest into a business or to develop a product that I could bring to an audience. So none of that knowledge, that really powerful knowledge, was relevant to me at the time. I sometimes feel this now when I watch entrepreneurship related content. For instance, people like Alex Hormozy, who obviously is a very smart guy. His company generates $86 million a year. Because he and I are operating at such different planes of existence, I don't manage a team of sales people. I don't have different departments. It's just me and Thomas. My team is very small. That advice, it just feels not tailored to me, even though it's great advice. But when I was trying to go from low income to high income, when I started reading books about Salesforce, the trends in the tech world, what certifications I could be studying for, and then actually reading training guides on those certifications, that was so specific to me that my income instantly jumped 40% because that was real for me. That was applicable to me at the spot I was in life. Now I read books about CEOs. For instance, I'm reading about Nike CEO right now, just because I want to absorb the thought process, the framework of thinking of big business leaders who take risks, have to be strategic, they're leaders. That stuff is becoming slightly more relevant to me now. But it's only when I got specific about the knowledge I wanted to attain. Napoleon Hill even said this, specific knowledge. That's when things became relevant and I really started to push forward. And if you don't know what to read, find someone you admire who's normal. Not Elon Musk, find someone who's just where you want to be in just a little bit of time, who feels like a normal person, and figure out how they got the knowledge they got, and then just go through the same motions. Take that training program, read the book that they're reading, listen to the podcast, and that's how you will progress. The final idea is really, really important. I wish I would have adopted this in my soul far sooner. That is to keep your ear to the ground for opportunities. When I was getting ready for college, I'd read this book by Cal Newport, How to Win at College. It was actually one of the first books he'd ever published. He was not a big writer at the time. And something that really stuck out to me in that book that is applicable for everyone is that he advised students to always be on the lookout for grants, internships, fellowships that they could apply for, study abroad trips that would be really impressive. He actually said just keep your eyes peeled for a ton of opportunities that are just really meaty and significant. And he said apply for 20 to 40 of these every year. The thing with most college students is that they're all hung over on a Sunday and barely studying in time for the next exam. So the idea of applying for a fellowship, just getting your life together enough to apply for that next grant or fellowship, is impossible to do. Most students just do not take advantage of all of these opportunities that are just consistently brushing by them. But the student who would just say, it is a rule for me, if I see an opportunity, I'm gonna put together an application and I'm gonna go for it. You would build up such an impressive catalog of like things you've done. And any one of those opportunities might be too ambitious to achieve. Maybe you apply to be like a Rhodes Scholar or something. That's obviously very tough to achieve, but there are so many opportunities in college for like fellowships and grants and internships. If you applied for like 40 a year, you'd probably win like 5 of them. And then over 4 years, that's like 20 internships and grants and scholarships. That's like a ton of money, first of all, that you'd be taking in, and trips and all of this. Your resume would be insane. It would be preposterously impressive. And this goes throughout life, you know? There are always opportunities. Honestly, they're probably in like within a 10-mile radius of your life. There's like a great opportunity for you, like a whole community of people that you could interact with, the right contact who could get you to read the right book that's gonna double your salary, even like find a romantic partner. There's so much exciting opportunity all around us. But the thing is, people get stuck doing what they do and they don't think it's worth going after any given opportunity. Maybe they don't have their life together in that moment. Just tell yourself, if I see something, I'm gonna go for it. Because in the long haul, that pays off so enormously. All you have to do is say that you're gonna keep your eyes peeled and then strike at every opportunity that comes your way. And I will say, if you can actually get yourself to do all 5 of these things, you're probably improving at more than 1% a day. It's so hard to do the basic stuff. And a great quote that I have to like re-remind myself all the time is that success is just like doing the obvious stuff long enough without thinking that you're smarter than you are. It's like, if you keep doing the obvious stuff for like a stupidly long amount of time, it just does work. It does work. So anyway, I hope you got some value out of this video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Nikhil. This channel is a combination between video essays, lifestyle experiments, honestly, just badass filmmaking. And now, importantly, also a podcast where 2 thugs just hash it out. So if any of that appeals to you, consider subscribing. But with that being said, for those of us who make those marginal gains, greatness is coming. We'll see you in the next one.